when to start investing. Is it too late to start investing? Have I missed the boat when it comes to making wealth from property investing? This is a common question that was getting a lot yesterday. So at the time of filming this, we just had our Wealthy community event where we had about 150 people get together, like-minded investors, some at the start of their journey, some a lot further along, as well as other clients and partners that came along to this event. It was a very light-hearted event where people were just sharing their stories about what they've done, the journey they've been on. And I was spending a bit of time sharing my investment journey with a few people as well. And as a little bit of sharing to help inspire others to do the same. But what I was taken aback by a little bit was when I was sharing that, because I guess two of my early investments, which I was talking about. One was in Western Sydney, a 2-bedroom apartment that I bought brand new for under 300,000. This is just over 10 years ago now. And another one early investment I bought was in a place called Ipswich in Queensland, a dual key home for 380,000 back then as well. And those properties have more than doubled in value now, and doing really well for myself. And when I was sharing that, the thought that was going through people's head, and outwardly what some people say, I wish I was born 10 years ago, or I wish I started 10 years ago, so that I can be in that position now. The reality is that what I was telling them, in 10 years time, if you start today, someone's going to be saying that same thing to you. And I'm going to keep this segment super simple today, because the same fundamentals that allowed it to be possible for some of my early investments to grow still exist today. And naturally, a lot of the people that we're talking to were from the Sydney area, because that's where we're based. So the Sydney market itself has become quite unaffordable for some. But the reality is, in Australia, we've got lots of different states, a lot of different markets, a lot of different markets within markets, and a lot of different asset types that we can focus on. So if we actually broaden our scope and understand the different fundamentals in various parts of the country, there's still the same chance to replicate a very similar model when it comes to property investing. And so today, I just wanted to just kind of address that kind of question and in a very simple way, show why it still works today to make wealth through property. Just very quickly, I thought I would just, this was the back of the event, but I'll just share a photo from the event. And while I'm on this, I feel this one of the biggest things something that I know, but I felt was highlighted to me when being at this event is just the importance to surround yourself around like-minded, positive people that just want to do better in life, because there's that older saying in the book that you are the 5 most average people around you. And right now, I know it's happening more than ever in property, because there are a few uncertainties in the market, and a lot of people are getting told or convinced by experts or whoever that they shouldn't be investing, or be careful, or don't do this or don't do that. And usually that advice is coming from people that aren't even doing it themselves. And it was just so refreshing to be around a community like this, where they're trying to uplift each other and find ways to make it work and just find a way to get it done. Because in any given market, at any given time, there's always going to be an opportunity somewhere. And I think that's what yesterday was about. So I'm super energized, super pumped after it. And I know I'm repeating myself, but just want to share a very simple reason why it's exactly the same, and you can still continue and start today if you haven't started already. Yes, some of these early days before the 1900s we can ignore to a certain degree, but this is just showing property values over time. This little graph is highlighting some of the areas which triggered certain booms, triggered certain downward periods as well. And you can see overall, a downward period comes and goes. I'm not going to even try and talk about things that happened well before my time. Really, my time's really only going to be around this part here. And even the GFC was just before I started investing too. But even during the GFC, there was a bit of a downturn. People were fearful. But even in the scheme of things, you can see the impact on the market, the downturn. That's all it was. And after that, you can see the growth from that point. Another one that I remember, which I can't quite see clearly in this graph, is around 2018, 2019, there was the Royal Commission when it came to lending, and there was a lot of scrutiny around lending, and on the back of that, there was a little bit of a downward dip as well. And then there was the COVID dip where people were like fearful. But then on the back of both of those, there's been significant growth on that. And right now, with the rising interest rate environment and a bit of uncertainty around that, that's just gonna be history repeating itself. It's gonna be one of these little dots that you're gonna see on one of these graphs when you're gonna look back at it in 10 years' time, and the line is gonna continue to keep going like this because all the other fundamentals in the country that's allowing the values to grow are still there. So that's as simple as I'm gonna keep it today. And so all I'm gonna talk about is population and supply, demand and supply, because that is 101 when it comes to how something is going to grow. Australia being a super young country, is going to be migration is going to still keep coming in, and the population is still going to be growing. So for the next 10 years, we've got government projections on how much that population is likely to grow by. This first graph that I'm showing you here shows as a percentage of its population what each state is likely to grow by. So you can see here Victoria, as a percentage of its population, is going to have the highest amount of growth. You're looking at a peak of almost about 2% of its population at about 2025, and then about 1.6% up to 1% by 2031. So a significant amount of population growing each year. This graph over here shows the amount of overseas migration that's going to be going into each of these states. And this is going to be the biggest driver of growth for the foreseeable future. Over the last couple of years with borders shut, there's a lot of internal migration going on. But now with borders reopening, governments fast-tracking skilled migrants to come into the country. They're generally going to land in areas with jobs, employment, and communities first. And that's going to be, the majority is going to be Victoria, New South Wales, WA in that order in terms of volume. If you kind of add all of this up, it works out to be about 240,000 odd people coming into the country each year. And I always tend to highlight Victoria a little bit just because it is a state that we are really focused on at the moment. We think there's some really great opportunities in there because Victoria has the same kind of fundamentals as New South Wales when it comes to employment, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to the communities where people from overseas are coming and migrating into. Whereas the average price points are almost 40 to 50% different for comparable stock. And with Victoria forecast to overtake New South Wales' population by around 2029, 2031, it's one of those areas where you can park your money and know that consistently it's just going to do well long term. And yeah, be extremely safe with that investment. And so we're talking about the amount of population coming into the country, and on the other side of population is supply. So I just wanted to highlight here some of the things from these government reports that are being put out there, that in the year 2025 to 2032, so we're looking 3 years onwards into the future, we're likely to have a supply shortfall of about 163,400 for the level of people that are in the country. And I snippeted this out from Melbourne, and looking at the full article, Melbourne's going to have the highest shortfall over this period of time as well. And on average, annually, between the years 2024 and 2030, there's going to be about 10,100 homes short. So we've got all these people coming in, and then we're going to have not enough stock to cater for this. I always say this a lot, very, very scary, and we are seeing the impact of that already with rents going up through the roof, and that trend is only going to continue. And as we're hearing all over the news, we're seeing things like markets crashing, markets dropping a little bit, but it's really important to dive into the data and break down which part of the market where it's happening. If you look at the affordable end of the market, there is literally little to no price drop, and even in some areas, we're still seeing price growth. So this is a trend that's likely to continue. And if you're looking into the future and seeing what's going to happen 24, 25, which as a sophisticated investor you should be, you will know to now find those opportunities, find those good affordable stock in good locations that are going to do well long term. And almost certainly the same story that's happened over the years to come, that have happened in the years that have gone, will happen again. And in 10 years time, when someone's coming up to you wanting to start their investment journey and you're sharing your story, you're going to tell them the exact same thing. So that's all I wanted to share in this week's episode. We're going to keep it simple. The main thing is, as much as you can get caught up in trying to find the right deal when here and that's important, but the main thing is getting started, because so once you commit to getting started, then you can get into the detail and find where exactly you want to go and what fits your strategy. All right, perfect. We'll see you in the next one.